I continue from the second video. Even though, uh, just to express a disclaimer that again, this is just my opinion, my perspective it's not tied to anything else. You can listen to it or you can leave it. But I just feel like I want to express myself about this. Is that mm, yeah, um, let's just stay on course with the argument. And if you don't know, there's no shame in it. I think people usually get really defensive. And, from my experience, again, this is my perspective, my experience, it may not be a universal truth. I think if you need I don't even think data at times is a universal truth because, you have to kind of analyze where the data is coming from, what what the demographics, whether it's geological, racial, the different background experiences, socio and economic disparity, if it's medical, what are the underlying conditions, what are other comorbidities, person's living habits and eating habits, and also the data size, um, if it's how it's collected, right? Um, and I think even to a certain extent, as the person who is participating in this data study, honestly reporting what type of habits that they're having, right? Or their experience are. It's sometimes when you're experiencing something, even from a first person's perspective, you might remember things a little differently than another person that is experiencing the same traumatic event differently too. Because what kind of helps us remember certain things is unfortunately strong emotions. So how do we go about and reconciling that data? And even when you think about reporting agencies, big government agencies, how are they collecting that data? How is it being funneled into those networks? Um, I think it kind of, being that I was a history background, our history professors always makes us like kind of question the source material that we're reading. You know, um, who is it coming from? What are they trying to achieve? Um, even the time period in which these books were written has, a certain way it's clouded in how things are analyzed because, if you think about it these days, we each don't have the capacity or the resources to go and do these big large studies on our own. We're getting all this information from a third party, and then um, these third party agencies, how are they collecting that stuff? Is there any records being lost in between? As these analyses are being done, um, is there, are we questioning in which they're analyzing it? As a again, I think all of us are capable of intelligently reading in between the lines and looking at things, not complicitly, but also explicitly thinking about these issues, and doing fortunately a little bit more legwork and in understanding the material by reaching out to the other types of materials that don't necessarily confirm what you're thinking, right? Um, so going back to discussions and the division of this country, yeah, creating those safe spaces and not believing in everything that you read or watch right off the bat is very, very important. Um, so uh, I think that's really it. I think, but I guess at the end of the day, I just connecting it, why there's this, why am I emphasizing and understanding and listening, and be, be willing to listen even though it may not agree with you on your points, is that it's for a, it's really for achieving the greater truth, right? And also a greater understanding of people, where people are coming from, so you can have, you can kind of breach that division or divide that we're experiencing in this country. Because if everybody's just so prone to being triggered and not allowing another person to speak their mind, we're actually shutting down certain, narratives that, and also we're going against what the constitutional saying is, that we're all entitled to free speech. So how do we go about in uh, allowing everybody, just allowing discourse and discussions to happen, um, and I think no one person's experience trumps over another person's experience. I think they should be, um, you know, they should have their chance to speak their experience, and then as a viewer, or a consumer of this type of this of of this information, we be allowed to draw our own conclusions, and everybody should be given a fair platform to do that. And if obviously there is a limitation to some of those things, if it's explicitly, it has to be proven that it is, not just one person saying this and that. Everything is about, if we're going back into our constitution, it's about due process. We really need to push back on those things where, like, it's so easy to negate some what other people are trying to say. I just want everybody to be given a fair chance to tell their story, to tell their perspective, to provide their findings, a same level of exposure, as maybe their fellow colleagues that don't agree with them in whatever that topic is, and let the people decide, right? Let the people decide what to do. I don't think these big corporations should be involved, in pushing whatever they deem as the right thing. I mean, granted, a private entity, they're but then again, that's kind of going into water, very divisive territory as well. If it's private business, they own it. They can do whatever they want with it as well. But something that a large audience consumes, if it's deemed as, like, I guess something that's publicly consumed, I think that those types of arenas shouldn't really have a stance on certain issues, or not stance at all for any type of issues, unless, again, it jeopardizes another person's safety, like YouTube, or Twitter, or now it's called X, or public forums, so to speak. I think that's really it. I feel like well, that's today's tidbit.